Hello, hello, hello. It's John Ray's spiritual slash metaphysical meme musings, daily inspiration for awakening entrepreneurs and generally badass people on a spiritual quest. Today is November 28th, 2020. If you'd like to see these memes before they get turned into a video, you can follow me at John Ray on Instagram and they all show up in my stories. Let's get this thing started. First up from Brene Brown, it says, creativity is the way I share my soul with the world. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about how powerful it has been creating these daily videos. And I'm creating a bunch of course content for the new mindbodysale.com course that I'm launching. And it is so powerful to start your day affirming who you are and sharing your soul and your essence and your being with the world. And so for me, one of the reasons that doing these videos has been so powerful is not just that I'm getting so many people that are saying that they're resonating with it or that they really needed to hear something. Like, that feedback and those comments are so impactful, and they make me want to continue to create content. But the experiment in doing this was that I wanted to better articulate who I am as a person, and articulate who my soul is and my soul's passion and desires and purpose. And we all have the opportunity to articulate that at a greater degree of detail right now. And the interesting thing is that as we become more clear about the authentic being that we are and put that out into the world, it acts as a tractor beam that then, or a bat signal that signals all the people that are ready to communicate with us and be in community with us and be a part of our tribe. All of those people start to come in when we're in full authentic expression. And so I just want to encourage anyone out there that is looking to build a tribe. Put yourself out there. Write more posts that are how you're actually feeling. Not everything has to be this positive, I'm winning style of post. Sharing your vulnerability and where you're at, and showcasing that it's okay to be where you're at, and it's okay to be on a journey and not necessarily always be at the summit of the mountain. Part of the fun is climbing the mountain, and the intellectual, physical, and emotional challenge of doing that. And if we can showcase that just showing up in the present moment and being intensely present with your life is important and valuable, then we can inspire other people to do that. And when we share where we are and where we want to be, it's important to talk about our hopes and dreams. But I want to, my personal message and what I want to be sharing with my tribe is that it's okay to be where you are, and it's also okay to have big dreams. And then everything in between that space is the journey, and you get to carve out the path. And part of doing that is attracting the right people and opportunities into your life. And the more that you are in authentic creation and expression and putting that out into the world, the more that you're going to be able to find the resources, the tools, and the relationships that are going to allow you to do all of the things that you want to do and share in all of the ways that you want to share in this lifetime. Next up from the Subliminal Messenger, it says, once you take the spiritual world seriously, you will start to see a sign in everything, everyone, and every situation. And really, spiritual things are things that we can't see, or that there's not clear scientific data around. It's all the things that live on the periphery, and so we call it spiritual because there's no real way to point to something in the physical world and anchor that into that. And so slowly we're starting to have a more subtle awareness of how the physical world relates to the spiritual world, or to that which is unknown to us right now. And so unknown things have to be taken somewhat on faith until there is some kind of stream of data that anchors the unknown into the known. And so being a spiritual person is being a bridge between what is known and what is unknown, and intuitively feeling in to the next level of knownness that is available to us. And the way that we feel in and become a visionary and become a prophet for the future is we have to become intimately in tune with our own emotional systems, so that we can have a sensitivity to the subtlety of what is not known, and that not known place, being comfortable in that uncertain place, being an explorer and an adventurer, taking the unknown and making it known, is what the spiritual path and awakening process is all about. From Dexter Gelfand, it says, if you spend your life trying not to re-experience something painful, you will be identifying yourself as a person who experiences that particular pain, and you will bring about the same circumstances and pain over and over again in being that person. This is such a powerful concept, and I highly recommend that people go and follow Dexter Gelfand. This is one of my coaches, and I've learned a lot about emotional processing from Dexter. And one of the things that we work on in our sessions, and that I work on in sessions with my own clients, is that if there is some kind of discomfort or energy that is presenting itself in the present moment, and that could be you reflecting on something uncomfortable that happened in the past, well, in that reflection, you're bringing forward the energy of the past into the present moment. And if that becomes something that is constantly repeating itself as some kind of a cycle, well, as identifying yourself as a victim, or as identifying yourself as someone who had that experience, as identifying yourself as those feelings, or those uncomfortable feelings, the identification of you as those feelings actually locks those feelings in place. And so the other day I was talking about how we are really just a spiritual tube, and our emotions are energy that flow through that tube. And when we have an experience that we are refuse to, or are unable to feel fully in the present moment, so a lot of times we'll go out of body, or we'll go into some kind of a manic spin in order to avoid the present moment feelings. When we do that, those feelings get glued into the pipe, just like gunk in your plumbing. And one of the things that we can do is put our attention on that gunk, put our attention on that uncomfortable feeling, and recognize that that feeling is not us. That is just gunk in the pipes. And our attention brings energy to that stuck gunk in the pipes, in our spiritual pipe, and it starts to break it free, like spiritual Drano. And so when we're trying not to experience the gunk in our pipes, when we're trying to avoid that, that's actually solidifying that gunk even more, and gunking up the pipes to the point where even more emotional trauma gets stuck in there, and the gunk in the pipes gets larger and larger. And so instead of avoiding those uncomfortable feelings, if we can move deeper into them and recognize that no feeling lasts forever, and that we are not our feelings are just energy moving through our spiritual pipes, then the attention to those uncomfortable, uncertain feelings will start to loosen them up and push them through our system, transmuting them back into creative potential. So, if you're looking for a community of like-minded conscious entrepreneurs, if you want to learn creative expression and how to make money from that, if you have a business but you're not sure how to make it profitable, if you're looking to learn how to take practical sales and marketing techniques and accelerate your results using metaphysical practices, or you just want to create spiritual leverage in your life to achieve time, location, and financial freedom, then please head on over to mindbodysale.com. I'm creating a community that is going to help you figure all of that out and put you in touch with some like-minded individuals so that we can all hold each other accountable and support each other. At mindbodysale.com, we are putting the soul back into selling. You're going to learn how to make money consciously, find meaning, align with purpose, and contribute to your community in a bigger way. Head on over to mindbodysale.com. You'll support this channel. You'll get the support that you need to up level your business and your finances and your emotional state, the quality of life. I believe that money without quality of life is really a trap. It's a misery trap. And so mindbodysale.com is all about you getting connected into structure, support systems, and processes, plus daily actions that are going to allow you to find purposeful work that makes you money simply and easily while you're helping and contributing to the people around you. So, next up from Children of Light 777, no matter how isolated you no matter how isolated you are and how lonely you feel, if you do your work truly and conscientiously, unknown friends will come and seek you. That's a Carl Jung quote. Originally, that was posted by Children of Light. And for me, this shows up by being in authentic expression. When we are intensely present with what is in our life and we do the work in front of us, whatever that is. If somebody comes to us and is in pain or has a challenge, we show up and we lend our attention to what is in front of us. We're not constantly trying to get out of the present moment. We're not constantly thinking about a future that we wish we had. We're saying that whatever shows up in our lives is what I'm going to be intensely present with. And we recognize that intensity of presence allows us to up level in all the right ways so that we can step into bigger and bigger games and bigger experiences. But to be intensely present with something, we have to feel our feelings about the present moment. And so if something happens that triggers something in our body or nervous system, it's important for us to allow the expression of that as vividly as we can, because that is the Drano in the spiritual pipes that is opening us up to wisdom and more intuitive guidance onto how to successfully navigate and win bigger and bigger games. From Change Your Perception, it says, "It's not my job to be likable. It's my job to be myself. The right people will gravitate." And that's this idea of creative, authentic expression. When we can be us, when we can truly be us, because a lot of people think that the expression of their truth is, oh, well, I'm going to express my anger and I'm going to express my discontent. Well, oftentimes those are masking emotions that are preventing us from connecting into a grief or sadness that actually lives underneath them. So when we're venting or projecting our anger outwards, what we're doing is being inauthentic, actually, because we're not getting to the emotions under the emotions, the true emotion. The anger is designed to prevent us from having to feel grief or prevent us from having to feel sadness. And so to truly be ourselves, we need to connect into that deepest level of emotions, the ones that are uncomfortable. And when we can express from that uncomfortable level, or more importantly, feel through that uncomfortable level and then express from a place of balance and peace, then we will attract people that are resonant with that peace and resonant with our ability to go to that vulnerable place, rather than people who are ready to attack at that level of anger, or who want to form an attack group against someone else. Too often in this world, tribes are gathering around a common enemy rather than the common relief that we all want. And if we can focus on the common relief that we're all wanting, that can be a really beautiful place of expression and allow us to attract like-minded people who also want to feel that kind of relief. From Awakening Body, it says, doors are opening. The wait wasn't punishment, it was preparation. I love this concept that whatever is happening in the present moment is designed to uplevel me into the next bigger game or opportunity. And one of my coaches talks a lot about these concentric rings of upleveling, and in every game that we play, in every octave of reality, there's a red smaller ring, and then a larger yellow ring, and then a larger green ring. And so anytime we step into a new, bigger game or bigger experience, the first thing that happens when we clearly articulate our desires is that all the fears turn on why we can't have that new, bigger desire. And so we have to feel through all of those fears first. And as we feel through those, we move beyond the red ring into the larger yellow ring. In the yellow ring, we're learning what actions to take, what our power looks like in the new game, what some of the rules of the game are, and we're still feeling through some of the fears and insecurities that come up there, but we're starting to gain a little bit of momentum. And then as we felt through all the fears and insecurities of the new bigger game, now we can step into the green zone, the green circle, which is a level of mastery. We're beginning to master all of the skills and rules of the new game, and we're easily attracting the opportunities that are available in that game. And so the waiting is much less about waiting and much more about, can we be intensely present with the moment, with the present moment, because in that present moment it's showcasing how we can successfully navigate through those concentric rings of red, yellow, and green energy. And when we learn how the muscle memory of moving through those zones quickly, then up leveling into new, bigger games, if becomes something that is fun. Just like winning a gold medal requires a certain level of intensity and hard work and pain and struggle, but it's so worthy, because you know that if you show up and do the thing you've been training for, you're gonna win. And that's what life is. There is a muscle memory to winning, and it requires that we become comfortable and proficient at moving through our fears and uncertainties and insecurities, and feeling through all of that, and then up leveling into a state of clarity and mastery. And then we in that state of mastery, we have even bigger desires and dreams. And so as we become more clear on what those bigger desires and dreams are, the process starts all over again. And so the important thing isn't to get to a place where you're always winning with ease. That certainly can be a part of the process, and you can stay in those green zones as long as you want. But the important thing is to recognize that no matter how bad things get, you have the emotional fortitude and muscle memory, or emotional memory, to be able to successfully navigate those, recognizing that any tension on the line is just going to propel you further into the future. From At Third Eye Awakening, it says, I've learned that not speaking on things just to keep the peace, quote unquote, is actually a trauma response. When you do this, you disrespect your boundaries. No matter what, keep taking up space and use your voice. This is something that is deeply intimate for me, because I have been somebody who has softened my voice from time to time just because I didn't want to deal with the backlash. I didn't want to deal with people being angry at me. I didn't want to deal with feelings of being misunderstood. And these are all reasons that we play a smaller game, because we do have fears that there will be backlash if we go and grab a bigger game than other people are playing. And one of the things that I am really working on, and having some success in finding, is speaking my truth. And again, my truth is not my anger. My truth is my vulnerability. My truth is the grief and sadness under any feelings of resentment. And so I have to feel through those masking emotions, And that allows me to find my true authentic place. And then if I can feel through any base level grief, sadness, depression, whatever lives in underneath my anger and resentment, feel through those feelings, and then I can find this interesting peaceful place, recognizing that maybe my life circumstances haven't changed yet, but I'm at peace with the present moment. And then from that place I can really have a truthful, authentic expression that isn't projecting the energy that I don't want to feel forward onto someone else. When we're projecting the energy that we don't want to feel onto someone else, when we're venting that energy because it's too uncomfortable for us to feel it, then that's actually not the most loving place or a loving place at all for us to be. And so speaking our truth requires that we be humble enough to feel the uncomfortable feelings that we're feeling about the current moment, or that we're feeling about what we've just seen, or what's just been said to us, and then expressing from the place of vulnerability that lives underneath our anger and resentment, rather than projecting that anger and resentment forward. From Balancing Chakras, it says real growth is when you start checking and correcting yourself. Instead of blaming others, you take your power back by being responsible for your life. And the concept of personal sovereignty is so dear to me, because what it means is that when we take full responsibility for the present moment, and for me, what that looks like is acting from a place of humility. And humility means that I'm willing to feel any feeling that is inspired or catalyzed or triggered within me, no matter how uncomfortable it is. And if I will feel through all of that discomfort, the uncomfortable energies and sensations of whatever happens in my life, then I gain a new sense of power, because it means that no one can manipulate me through my emotions. And too often in this world, we are being strung along by organizations or media companies or narcissistic friends. And I use friends in air quotes, or people in our lives that are trying to get what they want. And because we're not taking responsibility for our own lives, we fall under their spell and end up doing their bidding. And when we take responsibility for our lives by feeling our feelings, we recognize that kind of dead space that we end up doing things we don't want to do. So we end up working a job that we hate. We end up biting our tongue and continuing to hang out with people who don't have our best interests in mind. We continue to show up for people who are emotionally manipulating us. All of this comes from a place of not taking responsibility for our own lives. And when we grab our personal sovereignty back by feeling our feelings in every moment, and then authentically creating and expressing from that place of being fully felt through, and emotionally expressed, then there's so much power in that, because it allows us to make new decisions and new choices. And I firmly believe that all of us are two or three choices away from a completely different life, and that could be a negative downward spiral where our lives get way worse, but it could also be 2 to 3 decisions away from having this beautiful experience of life. And so when we take responsibility for what we're feeling, and when we own our feelings, and don't blame others for making us feel that way, but recognize the catalyst that they're providing for us to feel through something, feel through some gunk in our pipes that needed to be cleared out. And as we put our attention on that, on those uncomfortable feelings, no feeling lasts forever. The attention to the gunk in the pipes clears the pipes, and from that clear place, spiritual energy can flow through us, and that spiritual energy is creativity, it is intuition, and it does bring about the clarity that makes life vivid, and shows us exactly what our next step should be. From Third Eye Awaken, you know you're on the right track when you become uninterested in looking back. And all of us have our experience of who we are is based on the memory of what we've lived. And so the purpose of the ego is to focus us into the present moment and give us access to a lifetime of experiences that we can then use the muscle memory of in the present moment. And when we bypass a traumatic event or an event that was uncomfortable and don't feel through the discomfort of that fully, what happens is our attention keeps moving back to that event, and it creates a filter on the present moment where we're actually not seeing or perceiving the present moment accurately. We're instead seeing through a past trauma filter that's been layered over. And so you can think about it as the present moment is us looking through a window at our lives, and anytime we bypass a traumatic experience without feeling through it, that traumatic experience is mud being thrown on the window. And so if we avoid that mud, and by avoiding it, we're not cleaning the window, now as we look through the window looks dirty, and so the whole present moment has a dirty flavor to it. And if we will instead lend our attention to those uncomfortable feelings, the energy of putting our attention on those uncomfortable feelings is us cleaning the window so that we can actually perceive the present moment accurately. And so when we know that we have done the emotional work when our attention isn't constantly drawn to past experiences, when our attention is not constantly drawn to the mud on the window. Because when we've appropriately felt through all of the trapped energy that was locked up in a traumatic situation, then that muddy filter no longer shows up in the present moment, and our attention can be truly in the present rather than lingering in the past or worrying about the future. From Kaizen Executive, got Bill Gates sitting here at a desk, and it says Bill Gates said, "I just showed my plan to 1,200 people. 900 said no. 300 people showed me some interest. Only 85 actually did anything. 35 of those were serious, and 11 made me a billionaire." And I wanted to just highlight the power of numbers. Sales is a numbers game. Almost everything is a numbers game. And there's going to be a lot of people who tell you no in your life. I certainly have people telling me no every single day because I'm a salesperson. I'm making cold calls, and part of sales is learning to feel through rejection. Because there are going to be plenty of people that reject you and don't have time for your offer, don't have time to hear you out, or just don't need your offer. But if you will operate with a level of consistency and continue to show up with passion, and as a salesperson, the way that you do that is you have to feel through any uncomfortable feelings that come up on any phone call. And rather than bypassing those and just moving to the next call, give yourself space between each call, between each rejection, and feel through that. Make sure that you get back to a balance point where you're excited about making the next call instead of dreading it. Too often I see salespeople that are operating and making their calls from a place of dread. And if you will feel through that dread, then each call can be energetically balanced and coming from a place of optimism rather than pessimism. And in business, in entrepreneurship, in relationships, there is somewhat of a noodles against the wall phenomenon that has to happen where you just have to keep trying things, and eventually some of those noodles will stick. And it is okay to be rejected. Part of the process of fine tuning your offer and your desires is that there's going to be some inherent rejection, showcasing where your edges are at, and where you can fine tune and add more detail to the vision that you have for your life. And that is a beautiful place to get to when we can be rejected, feel through that rejection, get back to a balance point, and recognize that someone will say yes. The right person is going to say yes. And so, as we're hunting for needles and haystacks, we have to recognize that finding hay isn't a bad thing. It just means that we're closer to finding the needle. Healthpreneur says, the last time you took a week off, did your income stop, stay the same, or increase? If it's the first, then you need to break out of the trading time for money matrix. Part of having a really powerful offer and recognizing that you are more than your time is that you can open up location freedom, financial freedom, time freedom. These things all have to be designed into your business and your product offering. And anyone who is billing hourly is missing out on the opportunity of leverage. And leverage comes from creating products rather than hourly service offerings. And so anyone with a service offering who's charging, 1 hour for $60 or whatever it is, can add an extra flavor to that service offering and begin to leverage your time and leverage your efforts. So you could have a digital product or a book or a support group or some phone calls or a recorded message that you send out every day or health tips. There's a million different challenges that your client has in their day to day. And if you can be someone who figures out one, what those challenges and frustrations are, and then as part of your service offering, you offer some ancillary products that are speaking to those challenges, now you can charge beyond your hourly rate. And that's really how you start to leverage what you're doing to quickly accelerate your income. From the subliminal messenger, every time we interact with our environment, there's an exchange of energy that takes place. Information is transferred as we express our thoughts, words, and emotions. That was originally from Conscious Vibrancy. And we have these two people, a man and a woman, with these energy bubbles around them, and they're kind of Venn diagramming over. And it's important to recognize that a big part of our communication, 97% of communication is nonverbal. A lot of that is small, subtle gestures that we're picking up in people's faces. But some of that is the energetic overlay. And as we awaken as entrepreneurs and human beings, we get connected in with that more subtle level of energy, and we can start to vibe people out and discern what the truth of who they really are is. And it's important to make sure that we're also vibing out our own energies and emotions, because too often our energy, our past trauma that we bypassed in the past, creates a muddy filter over the present moment. And then we're experiencing other people's energy through that muddy filter. And there can be a misperception sometimes of someone's energy because we're actually picking up on the muddiness of our own energy. And so it's important to make sure that we're feeling through our own feelings, finding that balance point, and then perceiving the world around us so that we can have a more accurate interpretation and a more successful way to navigate the people and the relationships in our lives. The Examined Stoic has a quote from Nicholas Nassim Taleb. This was originally from the Examined Stoic, and it says, Stoicism is about the domestication of emotions, not their elimination. And I just wanted to share that I see some people who are trying to intellectually suppress their emotions. And so their entire world exists in this mental state where maybe they're having a facsimile version of their emotions in their mind, but they're not actually connecting into the energy of those emotions that lives in their nervous system. So their whole life has become an emotional bypass system. And where the goal is not to eliminate emotions so that we can just always be in this robotic logical state of intellectual interpretation. The goal is to recognize that we have power over our emotions because we are the spiritual tube through which those emotions are flowing. And just because we have some gunk in the pipes doesn't mean that that gunk can't be cleared out. And so acknowledging and naming our emotions and then lending energy to those emotions and watching those emotions slowly start to dissolve and burn themselves out as they transmute back into creative potential is such a powerful place for us to take back power over the emotional energy running through us and utilize it in a creative and expression of personal sovereignty. Sadhguru motivation. Sadhguru says, if the pain of ignorance bothers you, you have become spiritual. And again, I've said before, spiritual is this interesting bridge that we become between what is known and what is unknown. And it's an exploration and an adventure into the unknown so that we can make it known to ourselves. And so Sadhguru is saying if the pain of ignorance, if the pain of not knowing bothers you, then that propels you into the subtlety required to explore the unknown. And if we can get comfortable in uncertainty, if we can get comfortable in the unknown, then we can become these beautiful spiritual explorers. Daily Spiritual Quote says, nothing is accidental. We don't meet people by accident. They are meant to cross our path for a reason, to teach us a lesson about life. And oftentimes, our relationships, not oftentimes, through law of attraction, every interaction that we have is showcasing to us something that is happening energetically and emotionally in our spiritual and emotional nervous systems. And so the opportunity when we're in relationship with someone is to say, okay, what am I feeling in relationship with this person? What am I feeling in this present moment? And the opportunity is to then lend attention to the energies, sensations, and emotions that are present in that relationship and feel through those. And then one of two things will happen. We will recognize that the relationship gets better because now that we've felt through some of our past emotional trauma, we no longer have to be triggered in that way. And so in that softening of energy, the relationship actually grows to a deeper place because both people are doing that work at the same time. Or the other thing that happens is we become more keenly aware that it's time to walk away from that relationship. And that's equally appropriate if the other person is not doing the work. And sometimes our walking away is the catalyst that that other person needs to recognize that they do have some of their own emotional trauma that they're projecting onto the present moment. And this has been really difficult for me because for many years I thought that the spiritual place to be was to be at peace with people who were not at peace with me, to be at peace with people who were projecting their anger and resentment onto me. And recently, I've recognized as I felt through how all of that anger and resentment being projected at me felt and got to a balance point around that, I recognized, oh, the opportunity is to walk away and to showcase that it's inappropriate for them to show up in that way with me. From Soul Vibration, it says, you cannot be lonely if you like the person you're alone with. That's a Wayne Dyer quote. And I love being alone with myself. I love being in community with others, but I love being alone with myself. And I have had the good fortune of being introduced to meditation, several decades ago, and my life has been this beautiful exploration of the present moment in meditation. And for me, meditation is a kind of contemplation. I'm contemplating my emotional body. I'm contemplating the energy swirling through me, and I'm lending attention to those and being intensely present with whatever emotion comes up. And there's a beautiful experience that happens when I'm present with my feelings in that way and holding space for myself. The most vivid form of self-love that I can offer myself is to hold space for what I'm actually feeling and allow that to be okay without judgment. And when we can do that, the manic energy that prevents us from wanting to be with ourselves, that tries to get us to go out of body and always be in action so that we don't have to confront uncomfortable things, when we can hold space for those uncomfortable things instead of manically spinning out of them or away from them, then we start to have this beautiful experience of self-love, and we enjoy our alone time. Reverie hippie, we've got Alice in Wonderland pointing up at something, and it says, "My face when I finally understand the cycle I've been repeating for the past 6.5 years." And I've definitely had these ahas or realizations in working with my own coaches, and certainly I see others have them as I work through some of the emotional processing and coaching that I'm doing with people. But that face of, that's what it is. That's why I've been doing this over and over again, because all of us have these patterns that we repeat over and over, and life continues to keep bringing the same type of people into our lives, or the same type of scenarios, and so for decades we can spin in very similar cycles, and the key is that if we will be present with the emotions that those experiences trigger in us, and instead of manically spinning out of them, move deeper into them and allow ourselves to experience them, then we can get to these aha realizations of why certain scenarios keep showing up for us. And we can learn to successfully navigate into bigger, better, larger experiences and games. Reverie Hippie says, "You're crazy to everyone who can't manipulate you." And in a world and society that unfortunately is gaslighting us and wanting us to be a cog in the machine, and wanting us to obey, and wanting us to be a part of this mob dictatorship, it is important to recognize that the narcissist, and in many ways, society is a manifestation of collective narcissism. The narcissist is going to love bomb you as long as you're doing what they want you to do. And they're going to be incredibly angry and project all of that anger and hatred and resentment at you the second that you don't want to do their plan, the second that you don't want to do what they want you to do. And so that's important to recognize, because you can have a really pleasant experience with a narcissist. It can be a really fun experience as long as you're going along with what they want. But the second that you want something different than what the narcissist wants, and again, society is the collective manifestation of narcissism, unfortunately, right now, because that's one of the things that we're working through is our own egoic nature. And when you are in authentic expression and people are lashing out against you, that's an unloving place. The loving place is to allow anyone to have the experience that they're having, and to act as a mirror to them so that they can see the experience that they're having and make up their own mind about if that's how they want to show up in life. But when someone gets angry at you for living life the way that you feel is authentic for you, then that's a form of emotional manipulation. And it's important to recognize that, because in recognizing that, we can move away from the people who are not acting lovingly towards us, and oftentimes, our movement away from them acts as the catalyst for them to realize that that's the behavior that they're enacting. And not always, but sometimes they will have a shift or change of heart. But just recognize when you're being love bombed because somebody wants you to do what they want you to do, rather than them being authentically happy about you living your life in the way that is most meaningful for you. Truth Guidance says, "This is the real secret of life, to be completely engaged with what you're doing, and instead of calling it work, realize it is play." That's a quote from Alan Watts. And we've got this wizard here over the looking glass pool, predicting the future or something. And when we are intensely present in the moment and feel the feelings that exist there, and instead of trying to get out of those feelings, intensely move our attention into them and allow them to express as energetic sensation and clear out our spiritual pipes, then we do become wizard-like in our nature. There is a magic, a flavor of magic that shows up in our lives where we start to interact with the right people at the right time. Opportunities are falling into our lap. The clarity of what our next step should be is vividly present, and we're in authentic expression and flow, and the ideas just come through us, and we become a vivid messenger for truth and love. And that's such a powerful place to be. And it comes from being intensely present with whatever happens in our life and recognizing that life is a walking meditation. So that's your daily dose of spiritual magic. If you're looking for a like-minded community of conscious entrepreneurs all working together to create time, location, and financial freedom, then please head on over to mindbodysale.com and take a look at what we've created. You'll help support this channel, and I'd love to have you as part of our community. Please go and follow all of the meme creators I've highlighted today. Their links are in the description. And if you have a spiritual meme account on Instagram that I should follow, please leave a link in the comments. If you had any thoughts about anything in this video, any questions, comments, I'd love to see those. Once a week, I'm going to be doing a Q&A video where I go through all the comments and questions and respond to those. I'd love to interact with you in that way. So until tomorrow, I'm John Ray. Godspeed to you all.